Hello, listeners. Today I will be talking about a very famous work of Percy by Shelley, Adonais. The poet weeps for Keats, who is dead and who will be long mourned. He calls on Urania to mourn for Keats, who died in Rome. The poet summons the subject matter of Keats' poetry to weep for him. It comes and mourns at his bidding. Nature, celebrated by Keats in his poetry, mourns him. Spring, which brings nature to new life, cannot restore him. Urania rises, goes to Keats' death chamber, and laments that she cannot join him in death. Fellow poets mourn the death of Keats, Byron, Thomas Moore, Shelley, and Leigh Hunt. The anonymous Quarterly Review critic is blamed for Keats' death and is chastised. The poet now urges his readers not to weep any longer. Keats has become a portion of the eternal and is free from the attacks of reviewers. He is not dead, it is the living who are dead. He has gone where envy and calumny and hate and pain cannot reach him. He is made one with nature. His being has been withdrawn into the one spirit which is responsible for all beauty. In eternity, other poets, among them Chatterton, Sidney, and Lucan, come to greet him. Let anyone who still mourns Keats send his spirit's light beyond space and be filled with hope, or let him go to Rome, where Keats is buried. Let him seek shelter in the shadow of the tomb. What Adonais is, why fear we to become? He is with the unchanging spirit, intellectual beauty or love in heaven, by comparison with the clear light of eternity. Life is a stain. The poet Shelley tells himself he should now depart from life, which has nothing left to offer. The one which is light, beauty, benediction, and love now shines on him. He feels carried, darkly, fearfully afar, to where the soul of Keats glows like a star, in the dwelling where those who will live forever are. Adonais is a pastoral elegy, which Shelley wrote on the death of his contemporary poet John Keats. Like Milton's Lycidas, it is an English adaptation of the classical form of elegy perfected by poets as early as the classical Greek times of Homer and Virgil. Adonais is written mainly in the classical pattern, though Shelley has adapted and added some of the elements. It begins with an invocation and mournful tone, then it describes the nature's participation in the bereaved shepherds or poets mourning for the deceased one. There follows a procession of mourners, among them are Shelley himself and Lord Byron. Then the speaker attacks on the worst literary critics who damaged the self-esteem and honor of the growing artist John Keats, before moving to the consolation as conclusion. The mood gradually shifts from grief to comfort as the poem approaches its end. Shelley makes Keats' spirit one with the eternal. After viewing the Protestant cemetery in Rome, Shelley presents his philosophic concept related to Plato's doctrine of the ideal life like a dome of many-colored glasses. Shelley claims, with reference to his Neoplatonic ideals, that Keats' death in glory is far better than the inglorious and shameful life of his murderer, the savage critic. He also feels that he is being called by the spirit of John Keats in the immortal world. Shelley adheres to all the traditional formal pastoral constraints and more in producing his elegy. In keeping with the tradition, he does not identify the characters by their actual names, but by their shepherd names or by characteristics typical of natural rather than the social environs. Since the tradition is Greek, he harks back to classical myth and imagery. Keats' poetic efforts, as noted previously, are his flocks. The procession of mourners is appropriately arrayed with flowers and other vestiges of spring. Even in the depths of his grief, the poet never fails to remind the reader that it is in fact the springtime of the year. The elegiac pastoral is compelled to render the experience positive by the end of the poem, for while no poet can deny the undeniable reality of bodily death, the pastoral's very idealizations require one to imagine a transcendent reality as the true locus of all human hopes and aspirations. In its spirited exultation that light shall triumph over darkness, that the truth shall endure the violence done them, Through hatred and spite, resurrections that can take the breath away, Adonais reaffirms life in the very act of lamenting an individual's death. So, this is about this famous work, Adonais. If there are any questions relating to the text, you can post them in the comment section below. Thank you.